also have a couple members of the General Assembly that have come to be with us tonight. On my left is President Bonnie Hag, and then Representative Goodwin is here in the second row. So we're thankful for every citizen who has come here tonight, and to assure you the General Assembly values your comments and this meeting and your input into this process in this year of redistricting. This meeting is scheduled for 3 hours, so we can accommodate approximately 88 to 90 speakers. But if there's not that many, then we'll just adjourn when everybody has included their remarks. So a number of individuals have signed up both online and some out in the lobby. So we'll go through those lists. If you weren't able to sign up yet, then don't worry. We'll reserve time for you at the end. If you haven't been able to sign up, you could just notify Dwight and I, and he could help you with that. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into the list. We'll just go, we're going to start with the list who signed up online, and we'll just go in order of sign up. And when we're done with that list, we'll go to the list of individuals who signed up this evening. So first on the list is Ms. Sue Engelhardt. I don't know if I said that, yes, go to the first microphone. Each speaker is allotted 2 minutes. Sergeants at Arms will notify you when you have 1 minute remaining, and then when the time is expired, and we'll, of course, be glad to allow you to finish the complete.
Is it working?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to speak. County Senator Hart from the Richmond Voters from North Carolina. The League is a nonpartisan organization that's voter education and voter rights. Really important cause for us.
We can't hear you. The microphone on?
And I get more time, right?
I'm going to start you. Can't hear me.
Okay. All right. Okay, on. Okay. All right. Sue Engelhardt from the League of Women Voters Northeastern North Carolina. We're an organization that's nonpartisan, and voter education and voter rights are the most important causes for us. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. No matter what our color, background, or zip code, voters should pick their leaders, not the other way around. By the times, there's a handful of politicians in our North Carolina General Assembly that have been allowed to draw their own districts, lies to guarantee their re-election. Legislators drawing their own district boundaries is a major conflict of interest that contributes to partisan gridlock and prevents voters from holding lawmakers accountable. The process is called gerrymandering, you all heard that word, and it's a threat to our democracy. Political history has shown that both parties have gerrymandered in North Carolina. It provides advantages to the party in power by aggregating communities which they think are likely to vote for their respective party. You can also gerrymander by splitting communities apart, such as the voting power in areas unfairly diluted, making residents a less consequential group come voting time. Over time, one party can become so entrenched that the winners are a sure thing and voters lose interest in elections, which is not true. Despite pandemic-related delays with the release of census data, it's imperative that the maps are drawn with full public participation. I know this is the first step of that. Due to our state's increase in population, North Carolina has been allotted one additional U.S. congressional district, which adds to the challenges. NCGA, North Carolina General Assembly committees have decided to hold these public hearings at only 13 locations. We are lucky to have them here in Pasco County, but other districts are not so lucky to include the areas where North Carolina has the largest populations: Raleigh, Greensboro, and Asheville. A new public hearing schedule should be released that includes public hearings in every congressional district of the state. Also, public hearings have been scheduled prior to maps being drafted, and no hearings scheduled after maps have been drawn and released to the public. Contrast this schedule to the one provided in 2011, where 62 hearings in 36 counties were convened before and after maps were drafted. With communications technology making the sharing of information easier, we should be increasing transparency, not moving backward. Nobody knows our committee's trying to keep from living that. We need more public hearings.
Thank you.
Next on our list is Mr. Charles Allen. Charles Valley. We'll move on to the next speaker. Laura Overstreet.
Is it okay if I speak without the microphone? Can everybody hear me?
Ma'am, this is a public hearing, it has to be
So
recorded.
I have to record it, okay.
But let me say before you start, I just want to acknowledge that my colleague, Senator Don Davis, has arrived. So, welcome, Senator Davis, to the meeting.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, all right. My name is Laura Overstreet. I'm also with the League of Women Voters, and I'd like to follow up a little bit on what Stu said, talking about gerrymandering, how we so desperately need to avoid it here in North Carolina. Because when politicians draw their own districts, it's the voters who lose. But the voters are also the ones who can stop this from occurring, because it is our reality right now. The legislators draw their own districts, and they also approve their own maps. And so what we need to do in that case is get our voters involved in this process. It needs to be a fully transparent process, one that invites and encourages participation, extensive participation from all of our citizens here in North Carolina. And when we're looking at fair criteria for maps, I'm talking about keeping our districts compact and contiguous, keeping our communities together, making sure that we are complying fully with the Voting Rights Act, and that there is no political data and no political aims in the drawing of these maps. Gerrymandering undermines our guarantee of free elections. This is our right under the North Carolina Constitution. Gerrymandering gives safe seats to incumbents from both parties. We, the voters, need real competition so that our votes matter and our voices are heard. Gerrymandering denies real choice, so legislators don't have to listen to voters. It leaves us with no way to hold them accountable. The 2019 court-ordered redraw of the maps in North Carolina did not fix the problem. 93 out of 120 seats in the North Carolina House were still safe or likely wins for one party or another, or the other. And that's exactly how the map performed. In 2020, every single safe, likely, and lean seat performed exactly as designed. Please adopt a fully transparent process that allows for extensive citizen participation. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I want to also recognize our colleague from the House, Representative Humphrey Rudd, and he's seated beside Senator Davis. Next on the list is Ms. Tara Fox. Tara Fox.
I'm Karen Fox. I'm a resident of Pasquotank County and a director of the League of Women Voters in North Carolina, Northeast North Carolina. We want the North Carolina General Assembly committees to know that we expect the same transparency and dedication to a fair redistricting process as has been promised by the Pasquotank County Commissioners. The Pasquotank County Commissioners draw their own maps just like the legislators do. But voters deserve a say in how those districts are drawn. The decisions the Pasquotank County Commissioners make are very important to our community. They approve budgets, control some school funding, approve development projects, oversee some local utilities, fund the sheriff and courts, and enforcement of taxes. On June 21st, they signed a resolution establishing an open, transparent, and nonpartisan procedure for the 2021 redistricting of the Pasquotank County Board of Commissioners. They have scheduled 3 public meetings, one of which was last night to show us the census data, and 2 more will be held on October 18th and November 15th. They have committed to a redistricting process that provides for firm timelines announced publicly in advance, prompt public communication of the draft plans, timely posting of the maps and other information via website and through publication in local news outlets, well-promoted open public meetings on maps and the ability for resident citizens to review proposed maps, submit comments, and propose improvements. The resolution also encourages the North Carolina General Assembly to adopt procedures for the 2021 legislative and congressional redistricting that embodies the same principles, processes, and measures in order to secure our resident citizens' right to participate fully and effectively in the 2021 redistricting process and to strengthen representation in these elected bodies. Again, we expect the same from the NC General Assembly committees. Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to recognize another member who has arrived, Representative Linda Cooper Suggs, who's seated to next on our list will be Ms. Michelle Lewis. Ms. Lewis.
Good evening. I'm Reverend Dr. Michelle Lewis, Executive Director of the Peace Garden Project and unaffiliated candidate for United States Senate. Thank you for holding this meeting today to give us the opportunity to address redistricting here in North Carolina. However, I'd be remiss if I didn't state that the number of meetings scheduled for the state are too few. Additionally, the scheduled start time of the meetings makes it difficult for those in more rural communities and those working more traditional jobs and the working poor to attend. I hope it is the plan of those involved to put people before party as the legislature draws new electoral districts that will affect our state's political system for the next decade. Gerrymandering is all too real in the state of North Carolina, and North Carolina has repeatedly proven to be one of the worst offenders drawing lines around race and political party. I implore the legislature to create nonpartisan commissions to assist with this work. Numerous people fought and died so that we would all have the right to vote and to make sure that each vote gets counted equally. Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Catherine Pruitt.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Pruitt. I live in Brookford, Davis County. I am not affiliated with any political action group. George Soros or the Chinese Communist Party is not funding me to advocate on their behalf. I come here as a law-abiding citizen, a more than average taxpayer, and I'm going to tell you that I'm very happy with my district, which is number 1 for North Carolina Senate and House, and number 3 for Confession. I firmly believe that from what I can see, looking at census data and the demographics for Women's County, there's absolutely no justifiable reason to move our district. I also think that the only way we can hold our representatives accountable is through our votes. And if you gerrymander districts and move people around, you're putting us in a totally different area. And to my mind, that's taxation without representation. I also think that there are many, many, many other issues far more important than this that our representatives should be concentrating on. And I also think it's a colossal waste of money to keep going through this process and going through the inevitable lawsuits time and time again. So please keep Coates County where it is. Thank you for allowing me to do this.
Thank you. Next is Ms. Diane Layden. Diane Layden. And we'll move on to the next speaker, Shelley Jackson.
Hi, my name is Shelley Jackson, and I reside in Hertford, Wilkes County. And I'm also just an average person, a paid activist. I'm concerned that our rural district could be gerrymandered to the benefit of more urban areas and the detriment of the rural counties. A change to our district would disrupt the cohesiveness of services and support our community share from funding, healthcare to schools. The courts gave guidelines to ensure legislative districts comply, and it is in our state constitution. I'm also concerned about court gerrymandering as well. We must protect the rural vote from the larger urban areas who want to slice up rural areas and overpower the rural vote. There would be no rural voice, so essentially no vote. And what Kathy said, taxation without representation. The urban areas are being supported by special interest groups, like Common Cause and the Women's League of Voters, groups supported and funded from sources outside of North Carolina, emphasis on outside North Carolina. Please help stop the politics and protect the rural vote. Farmers, like my grandfather, in North Carolina country living, by keeping our counties whole, thus protecting our social services and county integrity and local representation. And thank you for the opportunity to voice my opinion.
Thank you. Next, Alex Urban.
Good evening, y'all. My name is Alex Urban, and I am an advocacy coordinator for the Association of Mexicans in North Carolina. I'm here today to represent the Latinx community across North Carolina. That's our mission statement, our other organizations, that's what we do. With only 13 public forums, it makes it impossible for many people in the community to reach these events and to hear about them. Mexicana has been serving, that's the abbreviation of our organization. We've been serving the community for 20 years, and we know that the systemic barriers and inequality that face the Latinx community are too numerous to list here. But in the 28 county area that we serve, it is clear that the Latinx population is much larger than it is here, and is continuing to grow. I have worked in the community for 1 year, professionally at least. And the glaring truth that I have discovered is that basic outreach events and opportunities such as this one, presented primarily in English, creates an additional hurdle for the Latinx community and the organizations that serve them. For example, because informing the community requires translating and disseminating information about these meetings, it takes time and effort on behalf of community organizations such as ours, and the absence of this leads to a large subsection of North Carolina's population ignorant of the rights and opportunities available to them. The information about these meetings should be available in Spanish and promoted in Spanish to the general public, and should not be so rushed as to take away the ability of community organizers such as myself and community members to prepare themselves and inform. The Latino community in the state is proud. Its culture and traditions cherish dedication and work ethic, seen by the community's involvement in agriculture, manufacturing, and the service industry. They are essential workers, and life without them would be unimaginable, yet they are overlooked. That is why I ask that we be fair in the division of districts, that we focus on all communities receiving the necessary resources. For this to happen, and as my counterparts here mentioned, we have to have representation. A better and more transparent hearing with a virtual option is much needed, not only for English-speaking participants, but for everyone. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Next, Mary Cassidy.
rural North Carolina, the cost of living, and the lack of crowds, among other things. Having grown up in smaller communities, we identified with Albemarle and the Northeast North Carolina communities. This is where I spent my time and resources being a part of the community. I'm concerned that our rural district will be gerrymandered to the benefit of more urban areas and to the detriment of our rural counties. Should a change to our district occur, it disrupts the cohesion of services and support our community share from funding, healthcare to other services, all the way to the last mile. Our issues are different than the urban areas, from fishing to farming to firehouses. It's not the same transportation issues that you see in places like Durham or Charlotte. Our North Carolina House and Senate leaders from District 1, Ed Goodwin, Bob Steinberg, and our Congressman Murphy for District 3, come to our homes, they come to our social events. They are part of us, and they are here local and understand our issues. If we are redistricted, we stand to lose that understanding, that their concern and attention, and that will be focused in places like the more urban centers. We don't want to be redistricted with strange configurations where there's a portion of Durham and a little sliver that takes us all the way out to Perquimans County or someplace else. Please do not split apart our communities into two or more parts. I urge you to keep our district as currently designed. Thank you so much for coming out. We know it's a long trip. Take care.
Thank you. Next, Keisha Dobie. Dobie.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of my community. I'm a lifelong member of the Elizabeth City community. I'm an educator and a parent. But more than that, I care and love my community, and that's the northeastern part of North Carolina. The census data from this year reflects changes in the demography of this area. We saw a decrease in our population, and that decrease is concerning, because as we see that decrease, that means that our little section of the earth over here in northeast North Carolina can easily be eliminated as a community of interest. And we are a collective community of interest as a group of counties. I ask that you consider maintaining the Northeast as a community of interest. And when I say that, I look at the issues that pertain to this community. We've seen a decrease in broadband access. And with that, we saw record numbers of our children not being proficient during the school year as they were sent home to have home instruction. Some did not have broadband access. Some did not have devices to even access technology that the schools were mandating that they have. So broadband access is one concern in this area. Also, the mental health needs of this community are of great concern. When you have to travel so far outside of your region to have your social emotional needs met, that is discerning to a parent and to a community. So that's why the Northeast needs to stay intact, because the resources need to be filtered throughout the Northeast community. I ask that you continue to have a transparent process, that you allow openness for opinions, that you're allowed to see maps before they're voted upon, and that you keep in mind that the Northeast is a community of interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Claude Dorsey Harris.
Hi, I'm Claude Dorsey Harris, and I am a founding board member of the League of Women Voters of Northeastern North Carolina, and also chairperson of the Currituck County Democratic Party. This is the first and only public hearing in Pasquotank County. We call on the Joint Redistricting Committee to offer a robust public hearing schedule after the maps are released to the public. North Carolinians know their communities best and can provide the most useful and important feedback to legislators after viewing the maps. We also ask that the committee immediately establish a website for redistricting information. The site needs to be easily found and easy to navigate and should include meeting notices and live stream links, draft maps, and related information and public comments. Other states, including Texas, Virginia, and California, have set up model websites for redistricting. Public hearings should be widely advertised and give the public enough time to prepare and should be safe and accessible to all. Videos and notes of public hearings need to be available online for public viewing. Legislators must disclose all criteria, systems, and data used in drawing the maps, and that information should be disclosed online to the public in advance of its use so that the public has an opportunity to review it. Perform all map drawing and revising in public view to include all discussions and meetings about the map. Final map should be accompanied by a written justification for the districts chosen. This includes all, and finally disclose all third parties engaged in redistricting. The shape of our district matters greatly since decisions made will control the way we citizens vote. For the 14 congressional delegates from North Carolina, as well as legislators in the state Senate and House. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim Brin.
Thank you. I'm Tim Brin. I am the chairman of the Clemens County GOP. I'm here on behalf of 3,228 Republicans, of which about 3,220 are not here for a 5 p.m. meeting. They are on the road back from the shipyards, in the fields, on the job, and elsewhere. But we appreciate the fact that if you're going to have 3 hours worth of comments, you need to start early. So thank you for being here to take the input. I will tell you that those 3,220 people, one of the things they're probably not worried about on their drive home is redistricting. They're aware of the fact that it's been a 10-year process, millions of dollars spent with multiple Stevenson decisions and a very fair and informed process agreed upon going into the current round of redistricting. And that seems to be pretty much universal. So the fact of the matter is, they're not really worried about redistricting this afternoon. The key items, equal population, contiguity, county groupings, and traversals, all of those things make perfect sense to anybody from the Albemarle. When you look at Chowan County, 14,000 people, or Clemens County, 13,000 people, Elizabeth City, 29,000 people, all are unique, but all are quite alike. They're the historic heart of the Albemarle. Redistricting is not going to change who they are. They're bound to the Tidewater. It takes 3 hours to get to Raleigh from here. Try finding an up-to-date News and Observer. You want a Virginian pilot? You can be in Norfolk in an hour. We're different here. It's not true that the world stops at I-95. So we are definitely a community of interest. We are acutely aware of not being heard historically over the years, and we currently have a good power base that represents northeastern North Carolina and its unique nature. And I've been told to stop, so again, thank you very much. Keep it as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Phyllis Calvino. Phyllis Calvino. Carol Terry.
Thank you so much. I'm Carol Terry, I'm the Vice Chair of the Pasco County GOP. And I just want to say thank you to the General Assembly for banning the use of racial and political data. This will help prevent the gerrymandering that violates the Equal Protection Clause.
Can't hear you back here.
What's that?
Can't hear you.
Okay. The strict adherence to the Stevenson criteria and respect.
Dr. Time.
I'll start. I just want to thank you guys for banning the use of racial and political data, which will help prevent the gerrymandering that violates the Equal Protection Clause. This strict adherence that you guys are abiding by the Stevenson criteria and the respect for the North Carolina Constitution's whole county provision is another strong step to create fair and legal districts. It is also a strong step to improving the process by not dividing counties into congressional districts. It helps keep our basic political units together for representation. It encourages candidates to win based on their merits, voted in by an informed electorate, and it prevents these districts from taking the odd shapes that they have in the past. Communities of interest do not dominate this process, since there's no common understanding of what a community of interest is. It's in the eye of the beholder. It is appropriate that the claims of these communities of interest are considered only after the redistricting criteria is satisfied. So this whole county provision leading to an uneven distribution of partisan voters across the state will always result in districts and outcomes that some people do not like, and that's inevitable. But an open, fair, and constitutional process does guarantee that everyone can be heard and can work to influence the process. And thank you again.
Thank you. Phil Ratso.
Hello. I'm pretty much the Senate, I suppose. So my point is, I don't trust either political party in the legislature to draw fair, just maps. I want an independent, free council to do that. 21 other states do. Thank you.
I would remind you to just identify your name and what county you're from. Feel like identifying your organization. Please do that. Fred Yates.
Good evening. I'm good to be here. I can take my mask off now. But like Dr. Brand said here, we're from our side of Hereford, North Carolina. That's called Windfall. And the reason it's called Windfall because the house blew it over. The house blew it over. But anyway, why are we here today? We're here to draw a map to give each person an opportunity to exercise the American right, and that is voting. You have a right to vote. If you stack the districts and you stack them to the point of where I'm mistreated, then I'm sorry. But I'll be watching. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Ward.
I'm good. Hey, y'all, found out about this today, 12 o'clock, and then I found out what gerrymandering was at 12:30. So I'm really unprepared. But I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be in a room full of people who are interested in paying attention. Thank y'all for coming out here. I managed salons all over North Carolina, Raleigh, Charlotte, Asheville. When I was 18, I couldn't wait to get out of here. I did not want to be here. I moved back home when I was ready to settle down. Nothing. Living in Raleigh and Charlotte, this is nothing like living in any bigger areas, or even Greenville. It's, I'm from Clemens County. It's super slow. Traffic jams behind tractors. Drive 30 minutes to get to Walmart. I'm way almost Edenton for Clemens County. But when I have a problem or I have a question, because I'm just learning how to do this, I can call my representatives, and I just found out that that's you. They called me back. He explained everything. They're super nice, and I never ever forgot that living in Raleigh or in Charlotte and in Asheville, really. So anyway, I just want to thank y'all for coming out here and just kind of remember that when you make your lines, when you're drawing your map, the folks in small towns are a whole lot different than living in big cities. Thank y'all.
Patty Walsh.
Yes, I'm Patty Walsh, and I live in Clemens County, and I have for over 18 years. I'm affiliated with the organization, District Conservative. I'm delighted that I live in a place where I actually get to meet my representatives, and I have several times. This wasn't always the case when I came here 18 years ago, and I like just the way it is now. I'm concerned about the impact of redistricting on my vote. I realize that certain districts have to be redrawn based on the 2020 census population changes, but I don't think that applies to Clemens County. We should keep the North Carolina Senate and House district intact. We should keep everything as much as possible intact. We're bound together with neighboring counties by our location, our community businesses, and our farms. We have very different needs than the big cities, and we just can't be compared to them, and we don't want to be part of them. We are rural counties, and if we redistrict, we could dilute our political power and impact the culture of our rural environment. We have elected representatives that know what our counties require in order to thrive, and we're able to represent our positions effectively and are accountable to us, and that practice should be.
Rivers.
Good evening, thank you for being here. Again, I am Keith Rivers, President of the Pasquotank County Branch of the NAACP, as well as the third Vice President of the North Carolina State Conference of the NAACP. We know and we understand. We, hear me now? We know and we understand that redistricting is about more than just drawing lines and putting people into districts. Redistricting is about funding for education. Redistricting is about access to health care. Redistricting is about law enforcement accountability. Redistricting is about voting rights. Redistricting is about political representation. Redistricting is about ensuring all counties of shared interest remain intact. For example, in Pasquotank and surrounding counties, if you have satellite, you get no North Carolina news. If you have cable, your news comes out of Wilmington, which is about 4.5 hours away. And this is exemplified, this is pushed even harder with the lack of broadband in our communities. So we are asking that our communities remain intact, that these things are taken into accountability, and our districts do not stretch from here to Raleigh, North Carolina, because we can see that the issues that are pressing in Raleigh are not the issues that are pressing in Pasquotank County. Redistricting is about ensuring the economic progress and well-being of North Carolina. And we want maps that are compact and ensure continuity, ensure that the districts remain together. Thank you.
Thank you. James Sears.
assumption that you just recently got the data from the Census Bureau. My understanding is that you just recently got the information from the Census Bureau, and that you have not drawn any plans yet, and that you are seeking input. You are currently, you're currently seeking input from citizens with regard to what we'd like to have for redistricting. 20 years ago, when we did redistricting, Little Hicks County got split in half. And we thought that was the most ridiculous thing we'd ever seen. We certainly hope that you would not do anything like that this time. We wish that you would search the information that you have and make a plan that, as many people here have already noted, that you have communities of interest. But that was what it is that we would have interest in, that you would keep our county together if you possibly could. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wesley Stokes.
Good evening. I want to thank the committee for coming out to this area, but I hope that it's not a facade. I hope that you're not coming just to get this information, but then the legislatures and Robert just do what they want to do. And my name is Wesley Stokes. I'm from Washington County. I'm the chairman of the Washington County Democratic Party. What we're hoping is that when you do this redistricting, that you will not do the packing, just packing communities of race together. My hope is that you will just take the numbers of the people, not look at political affiliation, not look at race, and just group like communities together. The last time redistricting was done, the time before this one, Washington County was a very small county, population of 11,000 people. The eastern tip of the county and the western tip of the county was in one congressional district, and the middle of the county was in another. And it was only done because of race. And we are asking that when you do this redistricting, that it is not done on that. Thank you.
Holly Audette.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank you all for giving the public an opportunity to give you our input on redistricting. You have a decision that you have to take a number equal and divide districts based on a number that's equal, and we're asking you to give consideration to nothing other than that. And here's why. Most people don't understand that the last group that was prohibited by federal law from voting in this country was women. In fact, black males got the right to vote 50 years before women by federal law. All women were prohibited from voting for 50 more years past that point. What you're hearing from this community, I think, in consensus is, we don't care what people look like. We don't care their gender, we don't care their race. We live together as a community. Look around, see our diversity. We're telling you that we share things in common. The rest of the world may be obsessed with what people look like. We're not. We care about what we share in common, not what divides us. And if you take people into our district and take people out of our district, and what you end up with is a conglomeration of people that share nothing in common, you will not give us good representation. Because the best possibility of good representation is to take people that share like-kind things in common and give them a representative that they elect who understands what those things are that we share in common. Then they will represent our interests well. So hear us, please.
Divide these districts based on population and what communities share in common. That's it. We don't want you monkeying around in the process and tinkering on the edges for any of your other politically motivated purposes. Bring communities together that share common interests. I thank you for the time.
Thank you. Quentin Jackson.
While we're waiting for Mr. Jackson, is there anybody in the room who did not get an opportunity to speak or sign up tonight?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd like to recognize somebody again. Mayor Yates back there, the old gentleman with a USMC hat on. That's the oldest serving mayor in the state of North Carolina out of Little Windfall that he just discussed a while ago.
I didn't call you old. Didn't look that old for him.
That's called
So, Mr. Jackson has declined to speak?
No, sir, they can't find him, but if he comes back, I'll let you know.
Well, Mr. Jackson was the last member of the public who was signed up to speak. So if he's not here,